Uh, Thank you, Mr. Joseph, and of course, morning to all of us who are residing in this country uh, permanently and temporarily, uh, and of course to our friends and family uh, who reside out of Dominica. As Dennis rightly stated, the rain is good in one sense, and it's also bad in another sense. Um, we need the rain to address the serious challenge of the dust and to help minimize respiratory problems, because that has been a major cause of respiratory challenges in the country. Um, and it is a blessing in that sense, and clearing the streets and unblocking the drains, so as the country can look much cleaner now. But for many of us whose roofs have been compromised or blown away by Hurricane Maria, it is posing a challenge for us. But we still have to say thanks to the Lord. Whether in life or death, we still have to say, blessed be the Lord, because He giveth and He taketh, and He knows what's best for us. So we also have to be very grateful for this. We'll continue to get rain as far as we've been advised. So you have those of us who live in areas that we all know now are prone to flooding. You should not be residing in those communities, in those areas, in your homes, because there will be flooding, as we have reports of flooding in Kulibistri and in Lube area, and of course Collyhope and a number of other communities where flooding has been reported. The rivers also overflowing the banks, and because we have not completely trained the rivers or redirect them completely, you will have the rivers coming from also different angles. So we have to be mindful going forward. Today we had planned on reopening many schools, but the weather has hampered that effort. But schools were geared to reopen today, because that would have been a very positive sign, a positive happening to get our children back into school and back into the learning groove, and prepare themselves for external and internal examinations. So we're hoping to see how the weather pans out tomorrow, and a further announcement will be made by the Ministry of Education later this evening on the reopening of schools for tomorrow or for later in the week. So please stay tuned and listen to the Ministry of Education. That is the authority that will provide the updates, and please listen to that authority. That is the Ministry of Education in providing updates. I want to say to all of us, with no exception, that the pace of our recovery will depend on each of us. It's not going to depend solely on the government and the government's machinery or the external agencies or our donor community. It is going to depend on how we treat our country and what contribution we prepare to make, as small or as big as it is. I still believe that there should be a greater effort on the part of communities and individuals and groups and churches to assist with the cleanup of the country. The state now is largely responsible for the cleanup of every community in Dominica, and we are paying for this. We will be paying for the cleanup. But I believe that the community groups, the various social groups, from scouts to guides to the other social groups, the churches. Can you imagine if all of the churches in Dominica were to encourage their membership to go and help cover temporarily the roofs of the senior citizens in each of the villages? What would happen overnight? Because the donor community, the NGOs who are here, have distributed thousands of tarpaulins. But there are many senior citizens and people with disabilities and families who are unable to put these tarpaulins on the roofs themselves. So if we have the ability and we see that somebody's roof hasn't been covered but yours is covered, why can't we reach out to the neighbor? Why can't we go to the neighbor and say, well, why haven't you put your tarpaulin? Why isn't the tarpaulin on your roof? And assist, mobilize some friends and colleagues and place the tarpaulin on this neighbor's roof. So we really need to get the churches, and I'm not here, it's not criticism of anybody, it's an observation that we're making. All of the various organizations, you know, public and private and NGOs that are all over the community, if we all were to call on our membership to play a greater part. You know, we have the galvanized still in some people's homes and along the roadside. Can we not gather them, you know, as a community so that the authorities can come into one location and pick these galvanized up and take them into the location set by the Solid Waste Corporation? Because the intention there from the government is to eventually have this thing compacted and exported out of the country, because we really do not have the space in Dominica to place these derelict vehicles, all of this alu zinc, all of this galvanized. The intention there is to have it compacted and exported out of the country to be recycled. So my prayer is that more of us, you know, because if we see a shortcoming in the state's efforts, the question is, can you not fill that gap yourself? Can your organization not fill that gap rather than sitting and criticize? Because it is easy for all of us to criticize, but at the end of the day, criticisms really sometimes will not bring any effective improvement or change. It is by our actions, by our deeds, that we're going to make an improvement. But so I really want to look at this, and it is the government's intention to maybe declare a day of caring, where all of us can spend the day going to the neighbor, going to somebody's home, and see what help the person needs. You know, there may be people who have salvaged some of the furniture, there may be people who have salvaged some of the clothes, but who need somebody to go to the river to help them wash. And how many of us are sitting by the roadside? How many of us are sitting by under a tree or by the river, cooking whole day, drinking whole day, partying whole day? How many of us are doing that in the country? And I'm saying us. I'm not just pointing finger at anybody. I'm saying us, because at the end of the day, it is going to be us in Dominica who have to rebuild this country in a better place, or in a better way than the country was prior to Hurricane Maria. So we really have to start doing some introspection as citizens and residents, and ask ourselves a simple question: am I really making a meaningful contribution to our country's recovery efforts? Where shall history place me in terms of my own contribution to my country and my community, my people, in respect to the recovery efforts? How many hours since Hurricane Maria I have volunteered to help our community, help our country? How many people have I assisted in my village, in my community, on my street? We have received supplies, but have we gone to the neighbor and say, have you received? And if she hasn't received, the same way we can get that person to get the help. Because if help has reached us, we know how the help reaches us, and therefore we could extend that opportunity to a neighbor who may not have received or may not have received adequately. What we say and what we do as a people will determine how fast we recover from this hurricane. And our efforts, we'll all have different views as to what should be done, how it should be done, when it should have been done, who should have done it. But at the end of the day, it is not finger pointing that's going to push this country forward. It is not finger pointing that's going to make our country a better place. It is about we working together with a common purpose and a common determination. And a deep expression of love and care for our fellow men and our fellow women. That's going to make the difference in how quickly our country moves forward. And I believe also that in this current climate, this current circumstance, this current situation, there's no place for selfishness. There's no place for disunity. When these things happen, all of us will be impacted. The rain is falling now. Every one of us is impacted by this rain. This hurricane has touched every single individual. Every single individual in the country has been impacted in one way or the other by this hurricane. Even if some of our roofs are up, we've been impacted by this hurricane. You may have gotten flooded. Your employer has told you that things tight with him, he may not be able to employ you for the foreseeable future. This country has not been earning any revenue for taxation or import charges or custom charges since this September 18. But we have legal obligations to honor. And we will honor those legal obligations. But we're gonna need to have a different dispensation, a different attitude. Something needs fixing, let's fix it. A drain is blocked in our village, you shouldn't call for the Prime Minister to come and block the drain. If we don't have a shovel, let's get a piece of stick or a piece of wood and unblock the drain. When I drive across Dominica and I see guys sitting on the block and there's garbage, there's some debris right in front of them, right next to their homes. I go to homes and they're strapped men in their homes and they have not touched their head since Hurricane Maria passed. The galvanizers are still all over in their homes. And the guys are just there lying in and partying and asking for supplies. Supplies have become the most commonly used word in Dominica these days. But so we really have to shake up ourselves. I give the country the assurance that as the leader of the country, I will do all what I can humanly possibly do to raise the funding for Dominica and to build back people's homes, build homes for those who do not have homes. There are many people in this country who are either not insured or underinsured and their entire house crashed, and who do not know how they're going to rebuild their homes. We will engage you as to how we can get you a home. Those of you who have been underinsured, you will get some money from the insurance. We met with the insurance last week to press on them the urgency of getting more adjusters in the country and the urgency of getting more assessors out in the field and the urgency of paying the checks in a timely fashion and minimize any opportunity for legal action by your customers. Because the insurance payouts are going to be a critical component in the recovery efforts of the country. And with the estimates of hundreds of millions of dollars expected in the economy, my hope is that those of us in the private sector, those of us in private homes, would not take that money and put it in an offshore bank account, external to Dominica. Put the money in our banks. Put the money back into the economy. Rebuild your homes, rebuild your businesses. Do not take the easier way out and just keep the insurance money and say, okay, that's it. Do not forget that that which you all have in Dominica was given to us by Dominicans. Everything we have earned in this country, in large measure, have been given to us by Dominicans. And therefore, we must not take the easy route out and say, well, okay, I'm full of my hands. I got $2 million from the insurance. That's good for me. Let's close business and prevent jobs from coming in. We have to move. Range that's building the Kempinski Hotel in Portsmouth, Cambridge, they have indicated to me, I met with the principals last week, and they indicated to me that they are ready for recommencement of construction. And they will start construction 1 week from today. So next Monday they will start they'll get back on site for actual reconstruction. I've also spoken to the proprietor of Jungle Bay, Mr. San Rafael. I spoke to him last week and yesterday. And we will see from the 23rd of October, work is going to start this week, but from the 23rd of October, we will see a full return of construction, the same complement of, and even more people we had on site prior to the passage of Maria. So there are positive signs, you know, a lot of small positive signs taking place in the country, and we have to be thankful for that. Water, we're pushing on. We'll be buying some water tanks to put in the communities that do not have water. We'll be loading some water trucks to truck water to your communities that have been, the water system has been completely destroyed. We're pushing Dominica, and they've been pushing themselves. We're pushing the telecommunication providers. We're pushing mapping to have television reconnected so we could know what's happening in the rest of the world. Many of us have been completely out of touch with what's happening in the world, and to be able to know what's happening in the rest of the world and to get entertained, because entertainment is a very important part of the process of rebuilding, and also calming your nerves and your minds in this very difficult time. So we're going through a difficult challenge, and with this rain it is adding to it, but we have to be grateful to the Lord because we are still alive. Material things can be replaced. Material things can be replaced. So don't bother about your nice white shirt that you love so much and everybody told you how beautiful you look with your white shirt, or your nice dress that you bought, you know, last Christmas, and people are excited to see this dress. You can always get a dress, if not the same dress, but something similar to it, and you will still look as beautiful as you did before Maria. So let us not be preoccupied with the material things that we've lost. You can replace the jeans that fit you the best, or the shirt or the pant. I have one made by King's Garments here, or you can procure it elsewhere and so forth. So let us be positive. Let us be constructive with our observations. Be constructive with our criticisms. Criticisms are important. Suggestions are important, but they must be done in good faith. They must be done with a good heart, and they must be done with the sole intention of making things better and improving the lives and the situation of our country. If they are done in a way to destroy our country, or to deny the people of Dominica the opportunity for raising the funds required to restore their lives and livelihoods, then that's unfortunate. Because the only way we're going to rebuild homes in Kulibistri and in Portsmouth and in Roseau, in Yampis, and in Gutter Village, and in Trafalgar, and in Cochrane, and in Marigot, and Wesley, in Calibishi. The many people in Roseau who do not have homes because the little place they were renting in Pong has been crushed. The only way we're going to be able to rebuild these homes, in large measure, will depend on how much help we get from outside. And therefore we have to be careful that we do not say anything to undermine the opportunities of these people to get back into work. The farmers who will be giving cash contributions, those funds will be coming from an international organization, and the World Bank in particular, where we'll provide farmers with cash on their farms in 3 tranches of about $10,000 to get back to the farm to plant. The small businesses, the many people whose life savings have been washed away and blown away by Hurricane Maria, they're going to have to rely heavily on the ability of the government to raise the funds to help them. Because the fact is, we do not have money in Dominica to the extent that we need to rebuild this country. With no revenue coming to the treasury, and bills are piling up every single hour, not every single day, every single hour. When you see this heavy equipment out there and men charging you $200 and $300 an hour, and men start working from 6 in the morning to 6 at night, do the maths. When you look at the debris that we had in the city and the amount of hours, the number of hours that we have spent in clearing the debris in the city, there's mountains of debris in the city. And calculate the hours since Tuesday, 19th September, to today, the 18th. And today is 16th. Today is 16th or 18th? 16th. I don't know the day sometimes. I just wake up and go to work, I don't sure whether it's Monday or Tuesday. Understand the cost and across the length and breadth of Dominica. We've had heavy equipment in Coolibri Street literally from Tuesday after the hurricane. And down at Pishley and down at Bacatel, ensuring that we provide greater safety to the citizens and ease of mind. So I am saying to us, my dear brothers and sisters, my dear friends, that we have to be positive. There must be a spirit of unity in our country. This country certainly doesn't belong to me, to myself. It belongs to all of us. All of us. There are some who may have a greater vested interest in this country because of the investments and the amount of property that they own. But at the end of the day, every one of us has a vested interest. I may have a greater responsibility because I lead the country, and I will not run away from my responsibility. Because my commitment to this country and to its citizens and to ensuring that I do everything humanly possible with the help of the Almighty God to push and to raise funds for this country, we shall do. That's why tonight I will announce, a very generous package which we received from the World Bank, commitment from the World Bank. And there are commitments being made, and we'll be guiding those commitments to fit within our own national plan and national strategy. Our declaration that we shall make Dominica the first green, climate resilient nation in the world has captured the imagination of countries, organizations, institutions, and individuals. And it's important for us to work towards achieving this. And it's going to require the commitment of all of us. So let us stay dry this morning as much as possible. Stay dry. Let's look out for the neighbor. If every one of us listening to me this morning were to step outside and go next door to a neighbor and find out how are things. How are things? This is not a time for us not to be talking to neighbors and family and friends, This is a time for us to mend fences and ask for forgiveness and, let us be friends again. Let us be friends again. I'm not a pastor. I hope you guys are going to church on Sunday, so you preach for you and the pastors told you what you should do. I am. But it's an opportunity to call somebody and say, look, man, we're not talking for some years now, why this thing tight, let us make amends. Because you can't be in a little village and you're not talking to anybody in the village. And if nobody's talking to you, then something is wrong, and therefore you have to do some introspection and fix it. Fix it. We can't be passing around vexed and things. There must be smiles, there must be embracing. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, how are you? How was your day? You had something to eat. Or you cook and you bring a plate next door. If you have more supplies than you really need, let's pass it on. There's no need for anybody to be hoarding supplies. There's no need for anybody to be denying anybody of supplies in this country. Because this government has ensured through the Treasury of Dominica that we have enough food in Dominica to feed every single of our 72,000 people in Dominica. So we have enough food in Dominica. We've bought enough food as a government that is separate and distinct from what the international agencies have given to us. As far as the government is concerned, because the government took a very early decision, days after the hurricane, to ensure that as far as the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica is concerned, that we shall have food in Dominica and water to feed our people. And that commitment has been kept, and that commitment will be kept for the foreseeable future when we intend to graduate out of delivering supplies to your homes to those of us who will be in need, giving you cash vouchers so you can buy the food from the supermarkets, so we can get the supermarkets back and to get your jobs back and to have more economic activity taking place in the country. So we intend to graduate out of delivering food to people's homes and providing cash vouchers. So those of us who are vulnerable, because the truth is, those of us who will be getting paid every month, at some point you have to stop receiving the supplies, because you can't expect to get your salary and to get supplies from the government at the same time, because we don't have the money to do that. But we will ensure that the vulnerable in our communities and in our country will always have supplies to take care of themselves. So very soon, those of us who are working will not be calling and say, well, I don't get supplies yet, up to now, and so forth. You'll be getting your salary, you'll go as you customer doing before Erica, and you will buy supplies. Your supplies, what you want to eat, and how much you want to eat from the supermarkets. Because we are allowing the food for the next 6 months. No taxes, no import duties on food, no VAT on food for 6 months. So I'm hoping that the supermarkets will sell it much cheaper, because they've been complaining about VAT. You know, why you scared to remove VAT from the food, that'll be cheaper. Now for the next 6 months, there'll be no VAT on food. So 15% cheaper. Some items attract 30% import duty, 25% import duty. So really and truly, we're hoping that the food can be 50% cheaper for the next 6 months. And even maybe for a year, because some of us will stock so much for the 6 months that we'll have supplies for a year. So I'm hoping that there will be an understanding that we can make the food cheaper for our people, because there's no VAT, there is no import duty on the food. You'll pass the food, and I'm hoping that the prices, so you'll show me the pre-Erica, pre-Maria prices. So if something costs $15 pre-Maria, show me what the price is now. $6. And that's what we should demand of the private sector in doing, because we can't seek to profiteer from the sufferings and the plight of our people. There must be a certain understanding and demonstration of empathy and sympathy with the situation, because many people would have lost their jobs, will lose their jobs, and we have to ensure we can cater for these people in this country. Building materials, we're also providing duty-free on building materials for those of us who have to rebuild our homes, rebuild our businesses. There'll be no VAT, there'll be no import duty for the next 6 months. I was a little disappointed that the port was charging tailgate. I mean, give me a break. Why should the port be charging the church for bringing relief supplies to the community? I don't have to tell the port they shouldn't be charging this. If once the government declares there are no taxes, you should follow suit. And we have people who come in here to help us with paying port charges and signing some big signatures on some paper, and tell me we have to pay. Until you don't pay, you won't get the goods to take to the needy people in the country. That shouldn't be. So I am sure that the port, they've heard me. I spoke to them last week, and I'm sure they hear me now. But I will be sending a formal letter to them today to tell them that is unacceptable. And they should really apologize to the international community and to the voluntary groups here for harassing them unduly for some port charges for supplies. Would very well the port people themselves will be getting from. Yeah. So I want to thank you again. You know, let us keep the faith. Let us be positive. I can tell you I am positive. My mind is very clear as to some of the things that we have to do as a country. Obviously, we will consult the nation on the plans and the programs, as we've been doing from literally 2 days after Hurricane Maria. Been engaging various groups and organizations, institutions and individuals, myself reaching out to them. Those who reach out to us, we engage them in discussions, because it has to be a participatory, engaging process. And very soon we will come to communities, in terms of those communities which have to be relocated. We already identified some lands where we will relocate some of you to safer grounds, and to grounds that can keep your family safe in the event of those disasters. There are some parts of Dominica we have to completely legislatively ban from building homes, and name those areas in the legislation. and put penalties for people who will place themselves in danger. So what we will do is that we will offer you a safer zone as a government. And in the process, build you a home. Those of us who cannot afford to build homes. But there'll be legislation to complement that, to ban you from placing yourself in your family, especially your children, in harm's way. So we understand why many of us have built in those areas. So I'm not criticizing you for doing that in any negative way. You know, that's where we could get up to the land to build a home for a family. We have to knock a few pieces of plywood together so we could have a warm place so children can sleep. We do not have the financial resources to do it. So we understand your economic difficulty. And what we intend to do with you is to help you have a home that can withstand a Category 5 hurricane, but a home that is away from the potential of flooding and mudslides. You understand? Because I have visited this part of the country, and it is by a sheer divine intervention why some of us are not dead. And we've been given an opportunity to be alive, and therefore we must use that life wisely and take actions that can minimize or eradicate the hazards and the dangers which nature has created on us, and also man-made actions have imposed upon us. So have a wonderful day. You know, in those times it's a wonderful time for a soup or broth for lunch. You know, in Rosa they say broth, but where I'm from we say broth. That's the better term for it. So whichever one you use, broth or broth and so on, you know, in these chilly times, one pot is the best way to go. So enjoy your one pot. You know, sometimes you put the peas and carrots in the rice and the corned beef one time, and you will scoop that up on your plate and so on. There's no time to have the corned beef in separate frying pan and this and that. You put everything in it, because as some people say, everything must go in the same stomach. So you know, whether you have it in 5 different plates or one pot, it comes to the same thing and so on. I recognize that many of you are engaging yourself in the consumption of the spirits of man, alcoholic beverages. Please, this is not a time for you to be intoxicated on the streets or at your home. You see the weather? We're still in hurricane season. So while I understand that some of us consume it for the stomach's sake, but it must not be to suppress your emotional state. It must not be to cause you to numb your pain. You know, because if you're doing it to numb your pain or to suppress your emotional state, you're going to be in trouble. Okay? So there's nothing wrong in having a drink if you're a family and your friends and so on. But let us do it in moderation. I was coming from Vegas yesterday and I saw a guy on the side of the road, well stoned. You know what I'm saying? But this guy is playing the family fool, you know? You cannot be stoned, my brother. You cannot be intoxicated beyond understanding, beyond legal understanding at this time. You have to be alert. You have to, all the faculties must be in order for you to carry on this task of really building your life and rebuilding your life and rebuilding your home and rebuilding your business. So it's important for us to joke around and to entertain ourselves, but let's do so in moderation. I want to thank you all. May God bless you. I will address the nation this evening at 7 p.m. God's willing. Thank you. Thank you, Dennis.